Hi, thanks for watching this tutorial on the filter system in the global production view of the Sustainable Seafood Data Tool. So we're going to talk through all the filters available in this view, and then I'm going to tell you a little bit about how to use them. The first filter I want to draw your attention to is the data source filter. By default, the tool displays information from all 5 collaboration member programs, but using this filter, you can select to display the data from only one of the member programs. The second filter that I want to focus on is the wild or farmed filter. By default, the tool displays both wild and farm production, but you can use this filter to select one or the other. The rest of the filters are relatively straightforward. The commodity filter, for example, displays all the common seafood commodities. The scientific name filter displays all the scientific names. The common names, all the common names, and the geographic filters, continent, RFMO area, FAO area, and country, all do exactly what you think they do. So let's talk about how the filters work. Let's use the commodities filter as an example. By default, the filters will display all the information for all the values in the filter. So commodity will, by default, display all the commodities. That means if you want to choose one, like Atlantic salmon, you first have to uncheck all. Notice that the display goes blank because it doesn't have any commodities to display, but just check Atlantic salmon, and the display will update to show you the profile of Atlantic salmon. The other thing to note about the way the filters work is that they also modify the total volume when you make a filtering selection. So when we use all of the commodities, the total volume is 211.6 million metric tons. That's all the global seafood production worldwide. But when we change the filtering to focus only on Atlantic salmon, the resulting chart applies to only the 2.4 and change million metric tons of global production that is Atlantic salmon. The next thing to notice is that by default, these filters are set to include the items you check. So this display only includes Atlantic salmon, but you can also use this funnel-shaped button here to reverse it and exclude Atlantic salmon. That'll also reset the filter, so you then have to go through that process again. For the moment, let's put it back to include. So the next thing to think about with the filters is how they relate to each other. So let's say I choose Atlantic salmon as a commodity here. That has the effect of narrowing the options on the related filters. So you'll notice that it defaults for common name to Atlantic salmon, and in scientific name, it only displays the Atlantic salmon scientific name. The next thing to think about with the filters is that they are very flexible if you decide to type into them. So I showed you before this idea of focusing on selecting a category or a value by scrolling down, but with a long list of values like country, that can take a little while. So you might instead want to uncheck all in that filter and then type enough to find, for example, the United States of America, and then the display will jump right to that filter set. Beyond the filters themselves, it's important to understand the display at the very bottom of the tool and the various functions that it performs. The first button to know about is the reset button, which is the left-facing arrow hitting a wall. If you click on that button, it will reset the tool to its default. All the filters will go back to all. There's also an option here to share your current search. So if you really want to hang on to the information or share the information about Atlantic salmon production in the United States, you can click and get an HTML link that you can copy into your clipboard, or you can even send by an email to yourself or to a colleague. There's also an option to download your current search results as an image or as a PDF, or even as a PowerPoint slide. And then lastly, this button at the right-hand side toggles between the default view and a full screen view. And that's it for the filters in the Global Production tab of the Data tool. The next video will talk you through the Target 75 view and the filters that you'll use to navigate that. Thanks for watching this video.